Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having an awesome weekend. Thank you very much for joining us once again. We're just getting all set up here for the second race of today, which is going to be Kyle Berry versus MiniSebrango. Hope you guys are excited. So this is a lower bracket race, which means it is do or die for both of these racers. The winner of today's race will be going on to face off against Space Snark, and the loser of this race will be leaving the tournament. But awesome performances so far by both of them. Really excited. And I'm going to get my co-commentator Turkey in here. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing okay, yourself?
Doing well, thank you. So congrats on your earlier victory. You've gotten a chance to hopefully have a bite to eat and perhaps rest up a little. Are you hyped for this race as well?
Well, so pretty much every match at this point on, we could easily say, can go either way. So I have no idea who's going to go at it. From what I've seen, Sebrango's probably been a bit more consistent with his times, but Calvary is someone you can never count out. His progression level is ridiculously good. So it's all going to come down to what shows up on today, and good luck to both, and we will see how it all fares out. So best of luck, and let's get this show on the road. And it has begun. So welcome. We got another matchup here from the second chance bracket. This is to determine who will be matching up with, I believe, Space Narc in the semi-finals of the second chance bracket. Carl Berry, as mentioned, his times may not be quite as consistent as Sebrango's, but his progression level is ridiculously high. So you never know what you could get from him. He may just show up and pull out a 55 for all we know. So it's definitely within his ability, and it's also within Sebrango's. So we're going to see how both runners fare out. I'll be interested to see what version he's running, because I know Carberry's been recently tinkering with 144 hertz, and I know Sebrango does run Form 144. So we're going to see pretty much where they go with both sides. And there are a couple of little differences, and one of the main ones being in 144 you cannot execute what's known as ledge grabbing, but you do have a slightly faster sword swing, which makes keeping up with certain cycles on certain bosses much more comfortable. As we kick off in chapter 1, and chapter 1 is relatively straightforward. Keep going forward, jump, dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. Yeah, a bit of a movie reference, why not? Show my age a little.
Oh, Kyle caught the ledge there for a moment and then opted to jump up and deboost. I think he was they were meaning to deboost immediately, but didn't go quite far enough.
I was going to say, are we sure this is the next race, or are we just replaying the one from earlier? Because I swear that's what happened earlier as well. Pretty much. But yeah, just trying to keep forward, keep on cycles, taking advantage of certain methods, tank damaging, as you saw there. That particular enemy takes a good amount of hits to take down, so it's just much quicker to just tank through and then push forward. And that will go through quite a bit of the front half of this run, which comes in two flavors. First one is more technical-esque platforming, and just using your general knowledge, your platforming abilities, and just knowing where to take damage, where to just be more conservative, and where to strike. And so far, both runners are pretty much just staying with each other. I mean, early doors, it's not too surprising, but we're pushing on to our first mid-stage boss. It happens in a number of the stages. We got the Smasher coming up. Pretty much just stay in close, swipe at him, just don't get underneath that crusher of his. He will kill you if you do that.
You mentioned earlier that Kyle was a newer runner, and I think Kyle was very much kind of really excited for the tournament, and that's been a big driver for the practice and progression, because they were just picking up the game as the tournament got announced, and they joined basically immediately. And you know, I obviously had to seed the tournament throughout the duration, and as new people joined and whatnot, and you can believe that changed regularly until the registration actually closed, because Kyle was just crushing it. And Mini's even PB'd in a race recently, one of these tournament races. So both runners bringing to the table huge potential to set new times, even just for themselves, regardless of how this race goes.
Very true. They're currently dealing with one of the bigger cycle rooms and 3 cycles to meet. Both of them meeting the first 2 successfully. This third one is a little more trickier. The 2 different methods. Carl taking the more safer method. To be honest, it doesn't actually lose you any time for going for the safer method. Realistically, maybe half a second at the most. So it's definitely a worthy way of approach. And what that definitely confirms with Carl, he is definitely running on 60 Hz as he performs that ledge grab to meet the cycle up top there to get through to the end of chapter 1. Nicely executed. And we'll have our first upcoming main stage boss in the apparator. Want to stay in close again, deal what damage you can. I mean, we don't have many abilities, so it is pretty much swing your sword and go mental. As long as you avoid the first offense of apparator, then you can take a couple of hits to just follow him through, and if optimally done, should be able to take him out as he's jumping. So we'll see how we both go on both sides. Oh, Carlbury opting to use the back jump there to get a bit more damage a little quicker, make it a bit more comfortable to get the cycle, and he does. So successful there, and Sebrango right behind him. Perfectly done on both sides.
Yeah, that was beautiful. He got the step in, like he positioned himself to, they positioned himself to avoid the initial large shuriken from Apparator, and then even did a tiny step in to avoid the next one, which allowed, despite Kyle being on the 60 Hz as you mentioned with the slightly slower slash speed, still was able to then get in an extra hit because of that, and even just as Apparator was jumping, get the final hit in. So it was very cleanly done, and the back jump can be a little difficult to pull off, but very nice. We're almost even going into chapter 2.
And well, this chapter is trash. Literal trash.
Garbage.
This chapter can get a little painful in some areas, but it is more or less more the same of what we got in chapter 1, just a little more on the tricky side. Meeting up with these cycles with the trash, and they will fall upon a global timer. So as long as you keep up with the same pace, you should be able to best each cycle accordingly. As we go into Bug Room, which is pretty much the make or break of the chapter, or one of the make or breaks. Hit the big fly in the center, and it just has a lot of mini flies, and well, mini flies do just get in the way. So that's to trigger this big giant laser here, so that'll get us access to progress forward on, and they'll be coming up with hopefully a nice little laser skip without taking an intentional tank hit from the enemy in the next room from where Carberry is, to bypass the laser at the start of the room, and then as long as you maneuver quick enough, you should be able to get across and down before the second shot even comes near you. So nicely performed there. So Brango's going to be, oh, and I'm back to jinxing runners. Great. Why are you having me back here again?
It adds flavor.
I don't, if you ask the runners, they might have a problem with you over this.
Well, oh, what is even happening right now?
Looks like there's a bit of trouble going on with chapter 2. We did say it is trash. It is literal
Let's
trash.
both just look away for a moment.
These are just the things that can happen. Yeah, looking like the laser's having its fun, particularly with that first enemy when going for that laser skip. If you don't jump immediately when you enter the room, he doesn't fire, and he'll just turn his back to you and you just get a big laser to the face.
I bet you both of them are probably super self-conscious about what just happened, not realizing that they're both almost exactly in sync because they both just did the same thing.
Very true there, as we go to deal with Laser Brain. Has the only weakness the only boss that has a weakness for whatever reason being in the core of its center. Does double damage upon striking. It's what we pick up Blade Extend for. Enables us to get an extra hit on the fight, and that extra hit also happens to apply to the critical strike. So if done good, you can just beat the living hell out of him and he'll just take it. Both of them getting through pretty much just only about 4 seconds between them, if that, as they come up to the first auto-scroller in the elevator. Ride it up high, and just watch out for these rust flies here. Rust flies can be a pain. Pretty much you want to take out the pods as best as you can, because they will be picked up by the elevator, and there's a lot of insta-death spikes laying around, and they also like to burst these fly pods open, which can make the patterning of them a little more awkward to gauge. So just taking them out in a certain style and fashion, you know exactly how to maneuver around them, and such, they just go down without too much of a fight at least. But this can be a painful death to take if it should it happen. It better not happen now I've said it.
Yeah, the elevator is generally the same thing over and over again, but the second you decide you're going to sleep on it, you'll get just bumped by one of the rust flies into the spike, and all of a sudden you wonder how it all happened. It's probably one of the, I don't know, least exciting parts of the run, I guess. Obviously by the nature of it, but it's just, you can't get away with not paying attention, because it can happen, it can go wrong.
And that is true on that. We get into the final room of Chapter 2. All the movement in this room is to meet one particular cycle right at the end, which is home of a trash elevator. And it will constantly just drop elevator for you to progress forward and up. And you want to just keep your movement pace going so you meet the quickest possible cycle, because even if you miss one, that can cost you a good 4 to 5 seconds. Looking good on Sebrango's end. He might be one cycle behind. Carberry looking like he caught on top of it and ends up just about taking the lead at this point now, as we are going to go into our next boss fight with the Scrambler. And so the technique that Kyle used in the apparator fight does get used as well within this one, where you want to stay in close and just moving forward, move back a bit, and then moving forward again. He's taking this method, is he? Interesting. So he's actually damage boost and manipulated to put Scrambler into the corner. So when you destroy him, he will just stay there, and you can just beat the living hell out of him. This also puts the mini Scrambler in that right side position for the final kill. So you're pretty much right by the door just as you finish him off. So you don't lose any time for having to run towards the door. Had a few mishaps there on Carl's side. MiniSebrango looked like to have the cleaner fight, but both through, and both, again, just another quick little lead change. And they've been keeping pretty much within seconds of each other through this entire bout so far. It's still early doors. There's still much more run to go, so this could still keep going for a while now.
I feel like as much as luring it may help, at the end of the day, there's the actual time that the boss dies and then the door takes to open. So I feel like you can kind of get away with not being right to the right edge. But I like the premise of it still. It was really neat to see that. I've not seen that before.
Yeah, in general, the principle of it, at least from a time perspective, it's mainly when you take that tank damage. That's time you're not using actually scoring damage. So by the time both fights end, I believe they both pretty much finish at the same time. It's just more of a general convenience for when he gets his helmet blown off. So at least then you don't have to worry about gauging when it's about to happen. You just keep the damage going on, and then when it happens, you're already right in front of him to just deal, and he can't get away from you. As we go into Chapter 3. So Chapter 3, pretty much this is where the game's going to start testing you a little more on your knowledge of the game, as well as your execution. The first two chapters kind of warm you up to it. It throws a couple of the tricks in there. This is where it has a number of them. Ledge grabs are plentiful, tank damage is a must, and yeah, things can hurt a little more as well, so you really got to watch yourself a little bit here. We go forward here, so we're going to take in the lower route there, just to avoid a tank damage, or avoid any tank damage. Nicely done, but as he is running the 144 hertz, he won't be able to go for the ledge grab that I believe Carberry went for and got. I didn't quite catch all of it though.
Yep.
So that'll give Carberry just a little bit of a lead coming into the Subway Express. Games of leapfrogs with every kind of thing you can think of. Everyone is here. Why would I make a Smash reference? I don't know. Cyber Shadow for Smash. Good luck. Anyway.
Yeah, Kyle's been really great with the ledge grabs, been nailing all of them. You can really see the difference because just got another one right there a moment ago. And is able to pick up, crucial little steps and make paces ahead. I mean, anything can obviously happen, and come Biohunter, you're going to see Mini make up some of that time again, likely. So it's kind of going to be give and take between these two players based on their choice of playstyle.
Very true. And this chapter does actually have a lot more ledge grabs than most players tend to go for, but each of those additional ones only saves a small amount of time versus the amount of time you could technically lose for missing the grab. And Kyle has been putting a good amount of time into getting those grabs. So if he's able to get them, then there's just those extra bits of time that'll add on to his run, just giving him a little bit more to work with as we both runners basically pretty much again still on top of each other. We go into the hunter tank, take off the head, access the body, beat the hell out of it. You also want to make sure to hit these little turrets here. Just put some in the ground so you have a much less bullet fire fodder going all around the field. Especially if one of them decides to go up and about to the right, because that will stay on the screen for a while, and that could catch you off. But both, no problem, once again, getting through. And onwards we go. A bit of extra money there for both runners there as well. If you got a spare bit of SP, you can fire it off there. We have failed to mention, but at the end of chapter 1, you get SP available to you, getting the first upgrade with the shuriken, which is a good point, which is good timing here. If we go for the snipe, it's a nice ledge grab going on. Low, a little bit low on Carl's precise. See how he manips? Oh, okay, he opted to play a little safer there just to make sure he didn't get budgeted in.
And then another ledge grab.
Oh, indeed. And Sebrango taking no problems with the snipe from the looks of it. I mean, it's hard to keep up with both of them when they're both on top of each other. Come on, guys, help us out.
Kyle, stand still for about 3 seconds. Let Mini get exactly in sync, and then we can just commentate one thing.
Yeah, think about the commentators. We don't pressure all the time, really. So we're in the final stretch here for chapter 3. Just got to switch on those ledges, maneuver over, follow a similar pattern every time, as long as you got the right pacing to avoid those bullets. Those bullets will also be on global timer. Get some additional finances there. So the essence that they're collecting is for these particular sub-weapons. We touched up a little bit on it in chapter 2 with the blade extend, giving you that extra bit of range. This is one of the other major pickups that you get in the swag blade as we go into Biohunter. So Biohunter, for the first phase, he pretty much stays in the air, and it's very hard to hit him. Hence why we want this blade, a swag blade, which I almost forgot the name of. We just use that to cause heavy damage to him whilst he's flying by in the air. Looks like I was going to save a bit of SP to go for the rising fire technique in front. Gets him down. You want to get a good amount of damage at the end of phase 1 to lead into phase 2. Go into phase 2, if you can get enough damage in from the first phase, you could just pretty much fall in forward and take him out in the center. Just missed out on Kyle's end, but he wasn't far off. Sebrango's turn to make the strike, and no problem on his end. Using that rising fire to his advantage. With SP, an upward slash turns into fireballs of doom.
Kyle's left with 1 SP, and I was really thinking, if they didn't use it on the second phase, then they were going to save it for the actual capsule, because if you drop in front of the capsule and use the rising fire, it just does all the hits you need at once. So I was a little bit shocked to see that they didn't opt to use that 1 SP at all and just grabbed the orb with one left over.
Well, I'm still learning new things even now. Good. Didn't actually consider that for some reason, but that doesn't make very much
I know, right?
I
think I only heard it and saw it recently when I saw one of the racers do it, and I was like, huh. I was like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. I was like, 3 projectiles and a slash,
Now, Sebrango showing off something you don't generally see from runners. The downstriking surf there just gives you a little tiny amount of forward push. It really isn't much, but it's always cool to look at for sure. But the reason they kept the swag blade all this way is there was a bomb that they both, I believe they both detonated. I couldn't hear it, but it looked like it did. That bomb just saves you 3 or 4 seconds waiting around when you get out of this monkey shrine here. Test of abilities for both runners. Aim of the game, get to the top before that monkey does. But swag blade's going to do swag blade things, and it could destroy crates. So you really don't want it to get in the way of your crate. Carl just trying to get that miniature pogo there. With Sebrango catching it first try again, they are both pretty much neck and neck, probably about 2 seconds apart, if that. And fire swing, no fire swing. Well, they both went for it at least.
Pogo and no-go.
Indeed. And our reward, wall climbing. So we can now stick to walls and climb them. Very advantageous for actually getting out of here, and as you can see, the bomb is gone, so they don't have to wait around for any detonation. They can just get on out, climb on up, and make their way to chapter 4, which is where the training wheels start to come off now, and this is where things ramp up. And there's going to be more flying enemies, more awkward enemy positioning and patterns, more damage in general that they can do. So this is a case of be very careful.
We're going to have a wonderful high five here in a moment after the players deal with the respective switches. As one went one way and one went the other. Mini, unfortunately, losing the swag blade there. High five.
Yeah, fortunately, the swag blade itself doesn't save a great amount of time from what we've seen, but then again, we haven't seen anyone really take it much beyond this point. So there might be more time saved than we realise. But getting the snipe on the second switch there, beautifully done. So that's going to do him a good bit of favour there, but he's going to fall behind for a bit for now. But we've still got quite a bit to go.
Yeah, this is like, I don't know, we've started measuring races in Biohunter, so I mean, this is less than 1 unit of Biohunter apart.
This is Biohunter's leg, at best.
This is like maybe phase 2 difference of time in Biohunter.
Biohunter phase 2 time, nice. Alright, so looking to keep on top of a certain particular pattern here. Usually it's always good if you can keep the same pattern every time. You know exactly what's coming up at exactly what point, when you're going to take the tank hits, when you go into delay. And taking down this nice little spike, well, big giant pillar, which I don't think we know the name of. We probably do. I'm not going to say the name that's in my head. We don't want to break PG if we can help it. I'll just leave it at that.
Kyle went for some sky-high pogos, too. Oh, going for Nutter.
Looks like Kyle's going for the Nutter here. This is a strat that he came up with, and it's a very awkward method to pull off. You need to be very precise on all of it. It looks like he's not happy with how the first part went, so he's going to abandon. So he won't lose any time versus what Sebrango's doing by not going for the Nutter strats, having to wait for the cycle. But essentially, if you can get precise movement and take out that first enemy, you can beat this cycle, saving yourself a good several seconds. I'm not 100% exactly what the time amount is. Probably around the 5-second mark.
Yeah, last I heard it was like 4 or 5.
But luckily for Carl, Carl knows exactly what he needs to look for. So as soon as he didn't see exactly what he wanted, he knew to bail it. So good, smart choice. So he doesn't risk going back to the last checkpoint, which would cost a lot of time if he did. Alright, so into probably the most scariest cycle meeting to attain. It looks scary as all hell. Not so bad when you get used to it. He's got everything he needs so far, because pretty much what he's going to do, he's going to get to this point, he's going to just drop for the floor between spikes and a spinning pillar. And if you're anything slightly off, there's a good possibility you'll either hit the spikes, or the pillar will hit you, and then you'll hit the spikes.
Too spiky.
It could be quite the sting for sure. Oh. Getting a little joggled there, and Sebrango opting out of the cycle skip there. Luckily, it's not the worst amount of time lost for it, so it's a fair enough decision to make to ensure you don't fall and take a death, because it's, again, Chapter 4 has their checkpoints pretty spaced out, so getting a death here could cost a good chunk of time.
Especially pre-dash stages, when you take a death like at the furthest part from a potential checkpoint, or like just before, I guess, your next potential checkpoint. It's always even more punishing, you know. At least when you have dash, you have that ability to move quickly through the area that you just traversed again. But right now, it's a walkathon, so it hurts even just a little bit more.
That is fair. That is fair.
Kyle got bullied
so
by
far,
the copters.
Copters have a weird hitbox, if you ask me. Sometimes it looks like you should have got them, and they decide, no, you got hit by the propeller.
They are far worse than you ever feel like they should be, and it probably scars you just slightly as a runner, because like you feel almost ridiculous about the fact that, like, why is this hovering platform providing so many issues for me? But that is a legit thing. Like, that, be okay with that. If copters scare you and they give you trouble, like, they're just funky.
If you don't like copters, you're not going to like this fight. Mecha Dragon is surrounded by them. On top of that, Mecha Dragon happens to be the most RNG boss in the run. So he could choose which either side, left or right, he's going to dive in. At this point, it could be one of 2 attacks. He's going to go with the underwater swoop. He could do a aerial dive. And then on top of that, you've got the randomness of where exactly the platforms are going to be spawning at. So put all that in combined, it's hard to be able to get this fight in a pure, consistent manner. The general gauge we go with is to try and end the fight within 3 rounds, assuming the platforms allow it. They're being a little stingy with Kyle, but he managed to make it work. He got the 3-rounder in there, so that was a good fight. Sebrango, unfortunately, falling behind. I believe he took a death, but he's going to be just around the corner pretty much. So he'll have some ground to make, but it's within his range. And, well, as we say, this is still quite early. It's only chapter 4 or 10. Meanwhile, the Final Fantasy Crystal and the Warriors of Light take charge. So The crystal has its own little health pool and decides to sacrifice health in order to spawn defense in the form of the Warriors of Light. Ideally, you want to make sure to take the guys out as they come out, simply because if they land, they can be a very big hassle to take on. But you can take a bit of a risk by keeping your damage focus on the crystal to destroy it quicker. The sooner you get the crystal down, the least likely you're going to have as many spawns to handle. But if any of them land, they can be a problem to handle. So that'll be down to runner's preference and choice. We got good old Mecha Dragon again now for Sebrango. Going in. I'm not too sure how many phases he's on. I'm going to guess he's on phase 3 at this point.
Yep, this is 3rd.
And gets him down. Nicely done by both. Mecha Dragon, you do not win this day.
Yeah, Kyle got really good spawns on the crystal. I don't think they even got a single outer spawn, to be completely honest. Most of them were inner, and then there's a couple mids. So really good both for just easy management and slight time saves. See what Mini gets here. Right off the bat, going right to the outside.
Oh, Kyle almost got himself jammed under that turret thing. And he's got the little guy trying to shoot him off screen as well. Go crazy. He made it through. He took one hit to the gun. He may choose to switch, and it looks like he's going to switch for E-Field. That's a fair call. Crystal down for Sebrango. Didn't look like it gave him too much hassle as we go to Vessel Defense for Carlberry. So Vessel Defense, you want to take up the 6 orbs around the field, and then just start going in and waiting as much damage as you can. Optimally, you can get him down before he even has a chance to go into phase 2, and good example of how that fight should go. So the key factor from this point on, from the end of Mecha Dragon through into the parts of Chapter 5, where you want to take one of 2 sub-weapons with you, either the gun that you purchased for Mecha Dragon, or re-opt to purchase something different in the E-Field. This is mainly because there's 2 particular points in the run in Chapter 5 that you can use these abilities or use these upgrades to hit a switch off screen, or hit a switch that's a bit out of your way to be able to skip a chunk of the chapter. Overall, probably about 35 to 40 seconds worth of chapter that you can save. And I've noticed that Sebrango did not stop to re-pick up the gun, so I'm going to guess he's going to go for the E-Field. The gun will give you better offensive opportunity, as well as being able to just deal heavier damage. But the E-Field itself actually gives you far better defensive properties going through, probably giving you better odds of actually getting the skips versus the gun. It also happens that the E-Field can actually hit these switches off screen, whereas the gun you need it to at least be somewhat visible in order to connect. And it's a main bit of an advantage for the secondary skip, as you can get the second skip with the E-Field without actually going into the boss fight first. So that's a nice little advantage they can take on.
There's also the difference in the actual alpha fight based on how you want to play it, because the E-Field, where Alpha 1 is so counter heavy in terms of typical strats, the E-Field can definitely mess that up because it can prevent your potential for parry there. So it's something that runners can contend with. Some will fire the shot off from the E-Field. You see it fires the little crescent and actually gets rid of the shield for a moment and then takes a second to regenerate. Some runners will turn around, I've seen, and basically parry backwards so the E-Field doesn't block the shot. We're going to see what our runners today opt to do and how they play this.
It's fair. You need more confidence in yourself with Alpha 1 with this particular upgrade. I've noticed, I've messed around with the ability not too long ago, because it was about time I did. I could take the same, I believe the same pathway can be taken with both gun and E-Field, but you have to be sure exactly when your E-Field is going to be down. As soon as you hesitate with it, that's when the fight can go very erratic. So there is more to pay attention to with that fight. As Carberry getting the first skip, not taking any damage at all on his weapon. You notice by the sub-weapon to the left a bit, there's 3 units of health. Thank you, Motorcycle, for your contribution to the run. I forgot what I was talking about. Damn you, Motorcycle. Oh yeah, the health of the sub-weapon. There we go. So you start with 3 as a health, you take 3 hits, you lose that sub-weapon indefinitely, unless you go back to the very checkpoint you spawned it from, which at this point would be far too much time loss.
We see Alpha 1 putting the squeeze on Kyle in the cutscene, so sacrificing the time there, not damaging down, keeping the E field in the hopes of getting skip number 2. Much more modest, save something like, I think we estimated 10 to 12 seconds or something like that compared to the first one, which is more significant, but I mean, a time save is a time save.
Yeah, but I say, when you take it to the account, there's not getting the squeeze down, you're pretty much probably giving up about 3.5 to 4 seconds in and around that mark to try and save the 12 to 14 seconds on the secondary skip. So it still gives you a nice net profit of at least 8. Speaking of Alpha, here we go. Alright, so again, the first parry on using Rising Fire as he leaps over. Nice parry on the second. Just misses out on the right side kill, but it had full control of that fight to at least manage to take him down without too much hassle. Still has everything on that E field, so he's got a very high possibility of getting this secondary skip. And speaking of MiniSebrango getting squeezed himself by Alpha 1 and still has all of his hits left on his weapon as well, so he's got a very good possibility of getting through himself.
Yeah, I respect the patience of Kyle to just wait that extra moment, even taking the E field to block the first projectile and then firing the crescent basically to finish Alpha 1. It's okay to take that extra moment if you're going to hope to save the extra time. Woof, that was a little close, falling down between purple orbs there, but saved.
Yeah, making it a little more risky now because he's only got 1 hit left. He just needs to get out of this room to be able to go for secondary skip with E-Field. As mentioned with the gun, you'd have to take the gun into the boss fight and get past the boss before you can get the second skip.
Oh, Kyle didn't fire, I don't think.
I was going to say, I didn't see him fire either. I'm confused.
Maybe isn't aware that the second skip can be done prior to the boss with the crescent, or just plain forgot because of race nerves. Yeah, we're gonna have to ask about that one. Fine, because still has it, but yeah.
Yeah, that is indeed true, so he'll be good on that. Sebrango getting through Alpha 1. Looked like a good fight from what I caught on it. Did take a hit though, so that's 1 unit out, but he still does have two units still on. 1 unit, no units. God damn it! Timing.
No life either.
Timing. Oh, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh my.
Oh god. So that's Cyber Shadow being Cyber Shadow, unfortunately. It's just a part of the game. So unfortunately he's going to have to bail out with skip number 2 as Carberry gets the D. So he has the second, or the main upgrade that we pretty much like to have for this game in the dash. And this is where the second half of the run comes into play. It becomes far less about your precision platforming to more of a chaotic speed fest.
I thought you were going to say chaotic platforming. I was like, that is a good description.
Well, that works too, I think.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Sebrango dealing with Alpha 2. Pretty much, he's going to open his eye up. He's going to try and parry that in. Just taking a bit of a delay to get the parry damage. It gives you 1 extra unit. You need to make sure that after the first few, you want to delay intentionally, because if you hit the eye too soon, it will close up and will remain locked for the remainder of that phase. So Sebrango does manipulate it properly. It's just getting the final bits of damage in, and down he goes. Alright, so chapter 6 for Kyle. Ran out of SP, so he's going to have to change his strategy up a little bit here to make sure he doesn't get too mauled over. One of the key components in chapter 6 is the security system. And this spawns a big giant saw blade, and okay, there we go. Kyle's not having none of that, so you can choose to destroy the saw blade, or you can choose to manipulate and run around it. He's opting to play a bit more safer, take it out of the field, so he has less of a worry. But for the most part, in Chapter 6, you don't mind spawning them. They do spawn a lot more other enemies as well, but we can use that to our benefit with the dash. Beautiful thing with the dash, upon successful destruction of an enemy or a crate, you will get the SP back that you spent using it. And furthermore, you're able to do continuous chain dashing as long as you have the chain of enemies to do it.
It's a great tool when used responsibly, but upon initial use, you're probably going to get immediately punished for trying to go fast. And that's okay. Don't let that discourage you if you're a new player. Just practice, practice.
Indeed. Alright, so we have Chapter 6 boss. Tunnel Cleaner, Mecha Birkin, whatever your name is. Come forth. So, parry we got at the end of Chapter 4 becomes quite a very valuable tool throughout the entirety of boss battles, because parrying back projectiles does a lot of heavy damage. Although with certain projectiles, the longer you leave them, the weaker they become and they end up dealing less damage, so you want to time it so you can destroy them pretty much straight away, and that was pretty much a textbox example of how that fight can go. There are a couple of different approaches to it, all of them pretty much within the same time frame. Wow, my English is getting worse.
I think that's what's neat about that fight, though, is there's so much variance and so much flexibility. Like, it's almost a good representation of what the game is as a whole, because although our runners may do slightly different strats, the majority of strats that you can compare side by side are so negligible in terms of time difference that you have that flexibility. So that's part of the fun of watching these races, is you get to see kind of how everyone chooses to approach different rooms, and you see strats that you maybe haven't seen before in rooms done in new ways all the time. So it's really fun.
Yeah, very true on that. Essentially able to customize your run in accordance to your personal playstyle. And so we got a little knock here in Chapter 7 as the Streets of Rage commence. Okay, just about survived that one. Fortunately, if he did take a death there, he did destroy the doors, so the door would definitely be down. But that was door number 1, and turns out there is a second. And, well, they found a way to up the ante. If you thought that first knock was bad, how about moving platforms and a better spikes?
No, thank you.
Well, that's what we got. And and no problem for Carl. So he's getting through Chapter 7 nicely. Sebrango looking to end his Chapter 6 at the moment, using the projectiles to his advantage. He does take a different approach to the fight, where he intentionally runs away from Tunnel Cleaner. This forces Tunnel Cleaner to spawn a bomb right off the bat. And you could actually use that approach in order to deal heavy damage early on. Time-wise, it works out about similar to what we do with other methods as well, but that's the beauty of, as we mentioned, interchangeable strategies. You don't lose any time, but at least you've got a different approach that suits your playstyle and suits your comfort much more better.
Yeah, unfortunately, that fight went a little bit off the rails there towards the end. One of the bombs got away from him, but made it work, and at least it didn't die. That's the big important part. You definitely do not want to die on that boss.
Very true, as he'll be entering the Streets of Rage. Carl currently in the sewer portions of Chapter 7. Picked up an SP dispenser that was off to the side. SP dispenser, pretty much from the moment you get dash, becomes pretty much a very valuable tool. Does exactly what it says on the tin, and it will slowly but surely replenish your SP over time. And with the amount of SP you want to be using with your dashes, that becomes very valuable indeed. Especially when it opens up avenues that you cannot realistically do without the dispenser, just because you're consuming too much of your SP to the point that it forces your dash to become weaker, shorter, and also stops your dash in general if you don't have SP to power it. And knock number 2. Nothing but death is awaiting for the knock, not the runners. Parries nicely there for Sebrango. He'll be entering his sewers in the momentary time. Carberry just closing up Chapter 7 now by getting the gate open, which will lead him to the Dragon Shrine to pick up pretty much what we want, the final piece of the equipment that we really want. Now we get a bunch of things actually at this point, but there's only one thing that matters. It's called Double Jump. And Double Jump is a little OP in conjunction with the dash. With a successful dash connection or cut through, it will replenish that double jump for you. And again, if you've got the chain of enemies in the air with you, you could literally just stay in the air and dash through everything for the rest of time.
Yeah, coming to the Dragon Shrine sub 38 is definitely a strong time. Both runners have had a few hiccups, but Kyle has been just really kind of maximizing the opportunity and minimizing the mistakes where possible. Mistakes will happen. It is Cyber Shadow, but Mini not out of this yet. You know, we still have lots of game left, and endgame can be absolutely daunting and certainly punishing with longer times between checkpoints. So this is definitely not a written off situation by any means.
Indeed, on that front, probably just a handful of biohunters between them. As we go for Chapter 8 on Kyle's end, and this is where pretty much the game's giving you everything you want, and now it's going to put you through every single test it can. So it does get progressively hard as the runner goes on, but this is pretty much where the game takes off every single bit of training wheel that's left, and just says, right, time for you to do Cyber Shadow stuff, so have at it. Getting a little caught up there, taking a bit of damage on that dispenser. Ideally, you want to carry this dispenser for as long as humanly possible. Unfortunately, there is a couple of checkpoints in this early part where you can replenish the dispenser if you feel as though it's required. Car's opting to just carry on with just the one, which is fine.
Gets through now more than ever, knowing that the Exo Essence trick is a thing. There's even more justification for buying the SP dispenser, or even topping up your SP dispenser partway through between that original one and now. Like, you can easily farm 100 essence just off having the SP dispenser for the first part of Exo. So you can realistically kind of pull the trigger on that, I think, a lot more easily than most of us realized until recently.
Very true on that. Also gives you a little bit of an advantage. I mean, not only you may spend a bit of time to be able to get that essence back, but you'll get your money back as long as you take the dispenser through. Furthermore, it's if you can keep it at max potential, or you're willing to take the risk, you can also prevent yourself from picking up the one additional SP dispenser that is quite commonly picked up in the run. So any time you would have spent picking up a new one from one of the checkpoints is automatically negated by skipping the other dispenser later on. So there's a number of variables from Chapter 8, to be fair, when it comes to the maths and the workings out of how to sort of work out on the fly what approach to take as and when.
It's kind of neat, because for a linear game, we've got a lot of like carry through of different sub weapons for purposes, and you know, we've got a lot of long planned intent behind what we grab and why. Because it's obviously limited. You don't have the ability, for those that don't know, you don't have the ability to switch which sub-weapons you buy at shops or anything like that. It's literally just one item per location, and it is what it is. So it's kind of do or die with these sub-weapons, and if you lose them, you don't have the opportunity in most cases to replace them, with a few exceptions.
Ooh, getting a little juggled up there, gets out. We'll be a bit cautious here. At least make it to the checkpoint, please, MiniSebrango.
Oh, I can't watch. Oh.
Okay.
I know the pain of dying there. It's so bad.
I think it happened to me in one of my earlier races as well. It hurt. So unfortunately, no dispenser going into any of the Exos at this point. So we won't be able to see the power of the dispenser when it decides it can't give SP, so it gives essence instead. And speaking of which, Gobbery is clear with the opening Exo part, Motorcycle Ride of Hell in an auto-scroller.
Turtle bag deploy.
Heroes in a half shell. Alright, so pushing on. See if he's going to try and set up for one of the only wall clips that we actually some runners may or may not go for in a run. I believe it's within one tile doors or one tile walling formations that as long as you've got an enemy that's within the vicinity overlapping, you're able to just clip right through. He did go for it. Unfortunately, the position was just a little off, it seemed, but managed to counteract, get the door down, no problem. So he's not going to get caught up in it. Oh. The dangers of doing SP dashing when you only have one. But gets it in. We go to Exo Part 2, where we've gone pretty much a transformer for a little while. Can't transform back into the bike, but we could be a mech for a while.
It'll transform into something else shortly, but it won't be useful or pleasant.
Transform into... Not going to say, that's a spoiler. You must wait and see. Getting through the first part without much hassle there. Pretty much with the mech section, it's just knowing where to take tank damage and where not to ensure you don't take a death. Leads you into this into the boss of Chapter 8, or one of the bosses, well, the only boss in Chapter 8, but he's sort of mid-stage boss in this big giant battleship. So pretty much this battleship is it can be manipulated pretty easily. It all depends on how you maneuver when it starts to leave the field, where you choose to stand, or where you choose to stand will determine where it's going to spawn in. So as long as you move in the same order every time, you'll always get the exact same spawning patterns and just lay waste. And we are done with EXO Part 1 for Sebrango. So I'm not too sure how many biohunters there are, but I'm pretty sure there's at least a number of laser brains.
I always feel like it's so easy to take extra damage in EXO 2 and just unknowingly just lose track of your health or not acknowledge that you're getting lower than you actually are. Let's see if Mini goes for this. Hey, nice.
Nicely done, and there's that door clip we spoke of. Nicely executed, got the right line, and in he goes. Just saved himself a small fraction of time. Well, about a second or two, dependable. So it's a nice little bit of time save if you can get it consistently. In the meantime, I guess it's get to see what we transform into. And I think the letter F kind of sums it up quite nicely.
Form of junk pile.
What? I'm sure he's fine. Oh.
I like puzzles.
Oh, that's quite the puzzle. Good luck. Alright, Carberry not having enough essence to be willing to take the full heal there, so he's opted for the save and exit. Return to the menu and bring back in. Replenishes about 2/3 of your current maximum health position. So it's a worthy call, because this is probably one of the more infamous death loops of the entire run. There's quite a bit that's going on when you're going at full throttle here, and all it takes, if you don't opt to get the health replenishment, is one hit and you go down. But then it could also have its own way anyway, so unfortunately there for Carl, getting a bit caught up there is going to give Sebrango an opportunity to catch up some time as he's going through the second half of EXO.
This is a nightmare room on Kyle's side. Just got hooked under the ledge and wasn't able to jump up where they wanted to go. And I think the activation actually happened early, which maybe threw them off. Lost a little bit of health early in this section, and I was worried that was going to be the result because they weren't full going into that really difficult room to begin with.
Yeah, this room takes a bit of getting used to. I've probably seen like each runner have their own variant of how to approach it. Some are a bit quicker than others, but the biggest key at this point is we don't tend to think about who's doing it fastest. It's just, can we all just survive the damn room? It can be very painful to try and get through, and you get caught in a death loop here, it can take some time to get out of. Oh, Carberry, no! Get out of there!
That is a description of it, a very accurate description of it. And we're almost neck and neck again now, because Mini is going to be coming up to the same checkpoint.
Very, very true. So it's back to being anyone's ball game. Unfortunately, Carberry getting caught up here is going to cost him that relatively sizable lead there. He's still got the lead at the moment if he can get through at least on this occasion. Sebrango, hopefully if he can get through first try himself, he'll be in a very good spot as well. So Carl does get through this time round, so he's out of the death loop. I'm going to see if Sebrango can keep the front up. Oh, okay, don't do it.
Going top right with the turrets. Oh, took a little damage there. Shh. Good.
Fortunately for Sebrango, he had more essence than Carl did there, so he's able to take the full heal instead, which pretty much gives him one additional hit there. That become very useful there, using the dashes there nicely to get back up there. So they probably am like two death apart from each other. Why does things like this happen?
Yeah, unfortunately, okay, Mini triggered the saw and took a couple hits in a row by the looks of things after getting knocked down by that same purple thing.
Yeah, sword blade is a very painful thing there. Oh, okay. It was a little bit closer than you'd like to see there, but getting through. He managed to get that falling health as well, so that's going to put him back into an okay position. Carberry's coming up to the end of Chapter 8. This is pretty much the last... Oh, he's showing that off, is he? Sneaky. So there's a thing there where you can actually hit the switch that you need to hit off screen. And that just allows you to start flying across the top there. So that was beautifully executed. You should really time that to see the benefit of that. So that was very nicely done.
This has been such a game of growth when it comes to strats and new developments. Like, yeah, we mentioned there's variation, but at the same time, there's like things are still being discovered. There's still new things being discussed. It's obviously always going to be a work in progress, but you know, this game is still in its infancy, especially when you consider it as a speed game. Like, we haven't hit even what, half a year at this point, so it's, who knows what's going to happen in the end of year 1 or year 2 or year 5. Like, who knows?
It's true. I mean, the game was released in January 28th, I believe, of this year, so it really has only been like 4 months. Coming on 5. Something like that. There we go with Chapter 9 on Calvary and the docks. Probably the shortest chapter in the run. Still a challenging chapter in its own right, though. Things can easily go wrong. Pretty much you don't want to go into the water. There's big giant mines that do heavy damage. So just avoid the water at all costs, and you should be okay. Well, Calvary is getting a bit caught up. He's down to 1 HP. He's going to have to try and get through the remainder of this chapter without getting hit.
Oh no. Minesweeper.
And he fell into the water. So Sebrango is pretty much only half a screen behind, just having to deal with the locked doors of Chapter 9 here. Calvary having to switch over to 0 SP strategies. Funnily enough, that's something I've seen him do, like even early doors. He worked a lot of, put a good amount of time into operating without SP. It's always good to have that backup there in the event that you do run out of the SP or you get caught up. So nice recovery there on his end. Sebrango just coming up from behind now, just a screen and a half behind at the most. And Carl's just got this, the final auto-scroller, I'd say, of the run, the boat. So, boat is fun. Enemies fly in. They'll always follow the same pathway. So you'll know when they're going to come in, how they're going to come in, and they'll you'll see, notice in the background these little shining lights. That's pretty much your indicator of where and when they are coming in. The more you get used to it, though, the more you feel comfortable with the approach. But there's also one other little factor, which is unfortunately completely random, and we're not exactly sure how it works. We believe it's off some kind of frame rule, which can determine a short or a long boat. And if you get a long boat, that's 10 seconds down the drain, unfortunately. But that's something hopefully we'll figure out one day as to exactly what's going on.
It's something that could probably even this race up at the moment, so we're going to see what happens.
It is very true. And they're mostly using the dash technique, and the dash technique is a little bit safer to go with rather than just going for brunt force offense. But you do sacrifice a couple of seconds from the dash mechanic itself. After connecting successfully, it does activate a bit of a slowdown. But it is a more comfortable approach versus the alternative. I believe Carberry got the short boat there, so that's going to give him a bit of advantage if Sebrango. No, Sebrango gets the short boat as well, so no advantage given to either runner. We'd like to see that in a race format. So we go into Chapter 10, and Chapter 10 doesn't mess around as we go straight into a boss fight with Combinatron. Pretty much just whatever you do, take him down quickly, because if you don't, he heals a lot and he becomes a nightmare to handle. But pretty much keep up the offense, but not too much offense early doors. Make sure that you keep him at least in a position where he will go into a separate attack outside of the heal. Then you can go for the all-out to finish him off. Nicely done on Sebrango's side as well. So I would probably say at this point, any death could change everything here. Speaking of which,
you said it.
God damn it, Kyle! I'm trying to break this damn curse.
So Kyle's
And
actually
now
dealing
that-
with no
and
SP.
now-
This is gonna be a thing.
Yep, and that's actually going to give
Oh no!
Sebrango the opportunity to take the lead, in which he actually does after that falter there by Carberry. So it's gonna happen. It can go either side right now. Gets that checkpoint in nicely. Continuing on with chapter 10. Yeah, there's these platforms that Sebrango was just sitting on there for a second. He did that intentionally to let the enemy cycles maneuver in a pattern that he's happy with. You can use them to move across. In fact, it's the intended way, but they are very slow. So we don't like that. So we just dash across everything. Destruction is key. That's a nice execution on Carberry's side, going with having to go over SP-less strategies to make sure he has his essence for the end game.
Oh no!
You do want to at least have a pickup for the final set of fights. Getting a little caught up, unfortunately, though. Sebrango's getting through without any real hassle, so... Oh, please don't tell me I just jinced you. Alright, he's
Kyle
in.
unfortunately
He's pretty much
struggling with the lack of SP here. Has the strat to go up and over these platforms, which is a nice backup. Unfortunately, took a death on the next screen in regards to the one that you would normally kind of dash through the enemies there. Tried to do the same thing with some pogos here, but yeah, unfortunately, just a couple death loops have really put Kyle behind.
Oh, he's unfortunately pogoed there. Just put him more into the death loop. In the meantime, Sebrango going on with Spider Rail. And want to keep a decent amount of offense on him. The key to him is to be able to go and deal both enough damage and at high speed. This will force, at that point where he kept his eye closed there, it could force him to keep his eye lock open, and that's where you'd ultimately look to end the fight. Unfortunately, just didn't quite get enough there, so he's going to have to go on a little bit longer. Not by much though, so managed to get him down on the second round though. So good execution there, as he'll be coming up with the infamous Climb of Doom, in which we all probably get ready to cry when it goes wrong, because it's the climb, it generally goes wrong. But it won't go wrong today, will it, Sebrango? Please?
Nope. We're confident
Speak
it's going to
of the
be
climb.
buttery smooth.
Indeed, it will be. When we speak of the climb, we mainly speak of the room that Sebrango's in currently. The other two rooms are much more lenient in how to deal with things, but this first room has a lot of jerk enemies around and about that just like to ruin your day. And they like to pretty much predict your movement or input read you to the point of, see, there we go, look at it go. Oh, down to 1 health, does make it through though. Just got to get up the last 2 climbs without getting a hit, but he opts to take a bit of extra time there to grab that safety health. So nicely done. Carberry making up a bit of time on that Spider Rail fight, getting down in a quicker fashion. So this really is going to come down to the final end of this run, where we go into the final fights of the game. Bit like Ninja Gaiden, or the old school Ninja Gaiden, you got 3 fights to deal with on 1 life meter. First up, Apparator. So Apparator's a little more comfortable this time. You manipulate around him using the dash ability to pretty much mincemeat his health all the way down to a point, and then just wail on him at the end there, steal his pocket change, and off we go. That'll lead us into the Progenitor. So Progenitor actually has 2 phases to him. This will be the first part, phase 1. It's going to keep himself cocooned in. You want to hit the shield off to to expose him through, and then just deal as much damage as you can. Using Rising Fire in the right position deals heavy damage early doors. In conjunction at this point, using the parrying to pretty much finish the fight as we go into the final round. And Progen 3 can be some trouble sometimes. Well, Progen 2 to be more precise. Pretty much what the key points you want to do, depending on the method you're taking, and by the looks of the way Sebrango's going about it, take out the 2 orbs in the centre and left. This will give you access to a shield, which will prevent you getting burnt from those flame dives. The red one is pretty much a red projectile, which does a good sizable amount of damage to Progen. And you can use it for swiping upwards as well. And he's pretty much there. And yeah, that's it. Progen is down.
Kyle hot on his tail, already moving into the second fight of the 3 in the final bosses there. So even despite the couple death loops, very respectable race and very, very strong finish.
Indeed, unfortunately, that is just Cyber Shadow in a nutshell. Things like that can just happen to the best of them. It hurts when it happens, but it's something you just have to accept as a runner. And he's down to his final phase now. I mean, it's not quite over yet. We've just got to hope that Sebrango does not soft lock himself. I'm taking my risks here. If he does, if he soft locks now, he could take my place in the tournament.
Al also needs to watch their health. One hit away from death here. Oh, nice triple. Really hard to work in all 3 of those. Watch out for that blade. Nice. All right, Mini coming in.
Nice execution there. And that is time on Sebrango's side. Mid 59s. Nicely done. Keeps it within the hour. And Sebrango will get the opportunity to go rematch with Space Narc from earlier on in the tournament. So that'll be a fun rematch. I mean, Sebrango will be looking to get some revenge on that one, I would assume. But trust me, with the ability of both of those runners, that'll be a damn good match to watch.
Yeah, I know you guys can't see, obviously, the full feed, but Mini with the full fist pump in the cam, just obviously happy to walk away with this one. Probably is not going to realize how close it ultimately was, and I'm sure had to feel a little bit behind the way that it started. So we'll be really excited to have a chat and see how our runners feel about what just happened.
Very true. On the unfortunate death cycle in Chapter 10 and in Chapter 8 was what gave Sebrango the opportunity to pull this back. I mean, Cyber Shadow just doing his thing, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. And we have our winner, so congratulations are in order for Sebrango, but also for Carlberry for what he's been able to produce in this short amount of time. He's done himself proud throughout this tournament, so get your GG's ready for him as well, as he's about to finish up. Or he's just going to run away.
Love it.
He's like, no, I don't want it. And there we go, just within an hour 1. Nice execution, nicely performed. GG's all round.
Might as well go out in style, right?
Might as well.
Alrighty, we'll see about getting our runners in here.
Today's been a good day for Cyber Shadow.
Looks like Kyle hasn't finished up yet in the race time room. Maybe just a little bit rattled about what just happened, or of course, just it's easy to forget. That's part of the process.
Indeed. I mean, when Cyber Shadow does Cyber Shadow, it can get a little frustrating, especially. I'm just going to say he's probably got that going in his mind that was probably what cost him. But to be fair, Cole is a very chill kind of individual, so I wouldn't have thought this would phase him too much overall.
All right, and we're joined by both of our racers. Congrats, folks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to first apologise to both of you, because I'm probably the reason why anything faltered throughout that.
That's all right, Turkey. I mean, I'm still going to keep practicing and kind of do your time.
Good. Every
That's
time
how
I try
I'll
to say
get back
something
at you.
positive,
It'll
all
be
of a sudden
even.
something goes wrong. Be even, will we? I will await. But in the meantime, to be fair, I mean, literally throughout the majority of that race, I'd probably at least say, at least into a good portion of Chapter 4, you were both pretty much like 5 seconds within each other throughout a good amount.
That's awesome.
So
Nice.
there was some real nice execution on both sides. So I guess just general thoughts on your own runs, how you felt it went, and all that.
I got 4 golds, so that was good. Chapters 1, 3, 4, and 6. So those are nice. We're down to a low 56 some, and I don't know if I've been to chapter 8, but that's okay. We'll keep practicing that level. I love that level, but it didn't love me today, and that's just Cyber Shadow.
Yeah, 110%. Both of you guys kind of had momentary death loops, I'll say. We wanted to ask about this because the laser obviously happened in stage 2, and it happened to both of you. There was actually, I don't know if it was collectively like 3 or 4 deaths on the laser unintentionally in 2, and you guys came out of it basically completely in sync after all of that happened. And we were both kind of wondering what mindset you were in after taking those few early accidental deaths, and like probably not aware that you guys were coming out of it even based on the other person doing the same.
Yeah, well,
Go ahead. Sorry.
The laser skip is not the first time I missed it. So when I miss it once, I just take it slowly. The next time, I'm not trying it for a second time. So it was easy to refocus on that one. But chapter 4, he was hard on me today.
Yeah, you guys both had a series of death loops. Yours was earlier, and then Kyle shot ahead for that duration, and then kind of things started to get traded off back and forth. It was definitely, I think, it's one to watch back. If you have time, definitely watch it back, because there were so many trading of places, and there were so many moments where we kind of couldn't tell exactly how it was going to go, and it was just really something to watch as a whole. I know Kyle mentioned you mentioned that you got some golds. Mini, did you have any stage that you felt went, I guess, really well, or at least went better than some of the others?
I've been able to go back in the green after, even with the laser death, but after that, chapter 4 went down. It wasn't that bad everywhere, but I had time lost a little bit everywhere. So, but in general, I'm pretty happy with the run. Sub hour is always good.
Definitely.
It looks like comparing against PB, I took it down to plus 0.9 at the end of Outskirts, and then in Return to Mekacity, it just started going up again. So it just feels really good to come back from that chapter 2 loss. I had a big goofy smile on my face as I was death looping, because okay, like the race nerves can settle and I can get into the run now.
Yeah, and that's a very real thing. You know, a lot of us have had that experience where, okay, it happened and you were probably consciously thinking it could happen, and then once you get out of the way, it's like, all right, let's dust it off. That fear of that thing that just could happen just happened. We're dealing with it and we're moving on. But great race, both of you guys all around. Kyle, thank you so much for joining the tournament. I know I talked right at the start of the race about how you were a newer runner that jumped in basically all in the tournament as you started to learn the run, and you developed really quickly, both in terms of your time and your skills with the game. So thank you for joining. It was really nice to see your progress throughout the duration.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting the tournament. It's absolutely been a blast, and I look forward to seeing the rest of the races.
Indeed, and that's with that, Sebrango, you get to go on, and looks like you've got a rematch coming up. I believe you got Space Narc once again. Looking for a little bit of revenge, maybe, or just have some more fun. I don't know. What's your thoughts going into the rematch?
Sure, fun will be there, but I was Space Narc came to my chat just before the race to tell me good luck. I said I want to win this one just to have the rematch, and he beat my PB by like 10 seconds, like a week ago. So we're really close. We're like some friendly battles just for that little 10 seconds. That should be us. I mean, the first race was good. This one should be better.
I'm looking forward to it.
Fair assessment, and it's going to be an interesting one. And whichever one you manage to succeed, will get the honours to take on Mashia in the finals of Second Chance for the opportunity to deal with myself in a best of 3. So, best of luck to you, and I guess any final words?
No, that's it for me. Thanks everybody being there. for making it happen, and commentary as well. Always good. And yes, you were talking about it, Treasure. I will rewatch the race. I'm always doing it, and sometimes you learn new thing while the commentary are talking about your race. You're like, oh, for real, that's why it doesn't work, and you correct it afterwards.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you everybody for hanging out and supporting the tournament. Thank you to our racers for, again, lending their time and participating. Thank you, of course, to my co-commentator, Turkey, as well. As per usual, I have dropped links for everybody in the chat so you can find the appropriate people. We don't have a date for the next race set as of yet. We are getting down to the final few matches of the tournament, meaning that the results of the matches that you're seeing today are determining the future matches, and of course, going to be a little bit delayed in the booking. Keep an eye out. I will be sure, as always, to advertise the times once we have those pinned down. And thanks for hanging out at all. You enjoy the rest of your weekend and take care.